ask yourself, why all of a sudden is news media reporting on, say, celebrity issues? Ask yourself questions. And whether you choose to do something about it is a whole different matter. But question it.
So, what I really want to know is that how did you organize it? I mean, taking away the passion from it, there's a lot of logistics that go into, say, organizing a protest or setting up, say, an organization of sorts that continuously lobbies for a cause.
Yeah.
So, how was it? How did you figure that
So
out?
I think initially when we started attending protests, we weren't the ones organizing them, right? We organized our first protest in, I think it was
March 2019.
Yeah. And we'd been protesting for a few months already, right? So we'd
1
been
month.
attending other protests and yes, Veer?
Nothing. 1 month.
So we'd been, attending
Right.
other protests and stuff, and I think that gave us a perspective on at least what a smoothly running protest looks like. And then we were already a part of, we were participating in activities by the Aravali Bachao movement, etc. So I think we just asked around for some advice, and then we said, hey, you know what, there's a student strike coming around, let's do it. And for the first protest, we had adults helping us. And from there, then we took it on ourselves. Then we said, okay, thanks, guys. You've given us a run through. Now we'll take it from here.
So
And,
basically,
we learned that, you're supposed to get police permission and this is how you spread the word. And I think gradually, first, I think the thing which really caught a lot of eyes was the fact that students are protesting. And, protesting is a huge thing especially in India. I think to say, oh, students are protesting is like, oh my God. So at least it caught people's attention, so that worked to our advantage, and it brought around a lot of awareness, right? So, every protest you'll have some people attending who don't really know what it's about. You'll have some people who are like, okay, this looks like fun, let's join it. And it's just, for some people, they'll come and they'll attend not really knowing what it's about. But by the time they leave the protest, they know more about the cause. They know more about what's happening, and they're like, hey, you know what she's saying is actually making sense to me. And then they'll go home and they'll talk to someone else about it. So, yeah, read.
So basically, when we joined so it was, now we organize our protests completely, but when we started off was when the Aravali Bachao movement was happening. When PLPA was announced, there was a citizens rally in Gurgaon on something called the Sunset Boulevard, where we had created one long, I don't know how many kilometer long human chain with a lot of people. That was the first protest which had happened. And Manya and I were present at that protest for the Punjab Land Preservation Act. So we attended that protest, and I think one more protest we attended after that. And then both of us woke up to Greta Thunberg. We were just, it was in the middle of exams, but we were kind of done with them. Kind of
It was
both
like
there.
before the entire UN thing happened. So I remember in our first protest,
Greta Thunberg was not a big deal that time.
So they were
So
like,
we were just
doing this. So there's this Swedish girl whose name is Greta Thunberg, and then we'd explain who Greta was, which you don't have to do now. They'll say, why are you protesting? You say Greta, they'll be like, great, climate protesters.
Yeah.
So when we discovered her, we were literally sitting on our sofa and scrolling through, YouTube videos. We were watching TED Talks for fun, and when we came across Greta Thunberg, we both looked at each other and said, well, shit. And that's how the ball started rolling. And when so I started following her on Instagram right after, and because of our mom being so involved with citizen movements, we happened to have a wind of what was happening. And there are other students also who we knew who were participating in Delhi, who were participating in, climate activism movements. So when it was announced that she's going to have something called a global strike, we thought this is our moment to tag on, because we did feel strongly for it. So I think that's when we and this was after the whole Aravali Bachao thing. We'd attended 2 protests in like 2 weeks, and we were really, at that time, our passion was really building up, and our interest was peaking. So so that's how we did it. And there were a few adults a lot of, actually 5-6 adults who had helped us out with the first protest. There was Mr. Jaydhar Gupta, Latika Thukral. They've been really helpful at that time. And then we got around to contacting people, letting them know. It was at something called the Vazirapur Bandh, which is now called the Samadhan Hub in Gurgaon. And we started calling people and getting people there, and that's when we really woke up to climate activism, and that's how it became a part of our life. So yeah, and then after that we organized 3 other protests, which have been the largest children-led protests in India, where we've spoken about Aravali Bachao while aligning ourselves to the global movement. So yeah, that's how we got involved in climate activism.
Yeah, I wish you the very best for it, actually. So we mentioned about, sort of reading a lot as kids, and even now, I'm sure. So what kind of literature do you guys as kids consume? See, now understand that from what the point essentially I'm trying to make is that, and that's the reason why this podcast exists, is that we have been privileged and we've had sort of, I'm sure you guys have to take your SATs, and there's this study which says that your SAT score is just not a reflection of your merit. It's a reflection of your family income, of your parenting, of of your how good your prep schools were, how good your high schools were. Similarly, I think that applies to just kind of a general knowledge and understanding as well. So as kids, you have been the horizons have been opened for you guys. So if I were to say that, there are school kids who are listening to this podcast, what kind of literature would you ask them to go and consume? And that it could be, spread across various mediums. It could be books, it could be movies, it could be other things, like you said. So
I would say expose yourself to whatever you get the chance to expose yourself to, and then delve deeper into whatever stays with you. I think that's the only way to really find your niche. So if you want to read like 5 books, in which one is a slightly more slice of life kind of book, one which is frivolous completely, one which is a political is a book full of political essays, one which is full of poetry. Expose yourself to as much as you can, and then delve deeper into whatever stays with you, whatever you retain.
So I'll be very honest. I didn't read a lot. Like I didn't read it, like any books outside of my school curriculum until like 5th grade. Okay, I hated reading with like this deep passion. And then I read like Harry Potter, and I was like, oh my God, guys, books can be interesting. And then I continued to read nothing but junk until 8th grade. So 3 years of absolutely frivolous romantic books and fantasy books I read. But the thing is that I think it's not, I think a lot of genres are written out as frivolous. And I think especially nowadays, you're seeing YA and dystopia being written off as, trashy novels and stuff. And it's not. Okay, read whatever you enjoy, first of all, right? And if you look at even a book like, say, The Hunger Games, like the amount of insight into our current society that book has is insane. Nothing you read can work against you. By reading more, all you're doing is gaining more knowledge, right? At the same time, that doesn't mean only read trashy pulp fiction, but and then only recently I started to say, okay, you know what, I'm interested in psychology, or I'm interested in what happened in India after independence, because all of a sudden our history books stopped there, So I don't know about the emergency. Now I'm looking for a book to cover it, right? And pull yourself out of the internet. The 90% of the books or stuff on the internet, especially if you're looking for like non-fiction, a lot of the stuff on the internet is just rants. You don't want to be reading blogs. Read actual published authors, right? I think that's definitely something that's going to help you.
Yeah. Not to say that rants don't get published. There are enough of those as well. But yeah,
less
I
like
agree completely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, read everything, read what you want. You know, there was a point where I was reading like a book a day, which was crazy because these were all like 700, 800 page books. But you don't have to. If you read a book a month, that's fine. I read a book a month at this point, you know. I read like 3 pages every day now, but it's fine, you know, as long as you're doing the reading.
Right.
Yeah. I agree.
So,
Oh, and
and
read things you disagree with. 100%. Read things you disagree with.
absolutely, I think that really just kind of opens your mind up, and you're able to take contrasting and contradicting views. And just to add to that, I started reading because I read Harry Potter, and it's fiction, and I know it's about magic, but the Harry Potter does give you a lot of life lessons,
Yeah.
early
And
on. As
also, yeah, I agree completely. Sorry, I should stop
The best
interrupting.
fantasy books, the best books set in another world or another dimension are those which reflect the society we live in. So look for the parallels, is my advice. If you're reading.
right, absolutely.
I think one good thing to do, a good practice, is to start talking about the books you read. I think because that helps you grasp your content better.
Right. You should talk about what you read. And if you don't have people who are willing to talk about the books that you've read or the content you're consuming, go on the internet, talk to people. Guys, maybe just to everyone who's listening, go on LinkedIn, find people who are interested, talk to them, and trust me, people are willing to, have a conversation. Kids today, school kids especially, they're having this um, a very, if I may say so, just a very disorderly insight into the world. An entire, I don't know, world of information that you guys are opened up to, and there's a lot of, with your biases and with your heuristics, there's just a lot of confusion that I can see. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, just be careful of the content you consume, right? Because we are open to a world of information, but the algorithms also restrict a lot of information and keep it away from us, right? If I click on only feminist links, that's all that's going to show up in my feed. I can actively go searching for anti-feminist stuff and still only find it like 3 pages into Google, right? So that's what I mean. I mean, be careful because a lot of what the internet does is confirm your biases, right?
Right.
If if you have a history of supporting, say, racist groups, it's going to show you. The internet is nothing but a reflection of your interests. So
Right, that's how it works.
to break out of your own bubble, you need to, I suggest at least, take the newspaper, for example. You have your news apps, but my news apps know that this is what I'm interested in. So I might not get enough economic news because I have no interest in the subject, really, right? But maybe just reading through like the headlines in the Economic Times or the Indian Express or whatever will give me a more rounded idea of what's happening.
And
So
read enough of real world stuff, because there's no way that you can filter that according to your interest. Everything's thrown at you, and that's why I said read everything, because then you retain what you like, and you're more sure of what you like because it hasn't been spoon fed to you.
I just think that the world is kind of paced a lot in the last 5 years. I mean, it's moving at, say, um, 3 times the speed that it was moving, say, for our parents. And with that on, and with school and with other things that there are, where do you see yourself, say, in this world? How do you plot your trajectories? How do you define for yourself what's your role? How do you figure out that? I know it's a tough question to ask so early on, but and I'm totally fine with you giving an answer that I've not figured it out yet, and I don't know where I see myself in the world,
Yeah,
which
so
is
I think, yeah, because it's such an because how do you plot yourself in a world that's changing?
right.
I haven't really thought about it. I mean, we all have some place where we'd like to be in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I mean, you have some vague idea, that supposing if you want to be an architect, you want to have your own practice in the next 15 years, or if you're a doctor, you want to have done your specialization in the next, super specialization in your next 10 years, something like that. But yeah, I never thought about it that way. So I think it's very interesting. even your goals can change with, yeah, it's fun. Sorry.
Think I want to be in a space where I'm making change and where I'm able to foster more people. I'm able to, make people think. And I'm challenging people to question themselves and what their beliefs are every day. And I am being challenged to question my own beliefs every day because things are always changing and you need to change with it. You can't, really dig your nails in anywhere.
Yeah, so whenever I'm as clueless as you guys are, and whenever anyone asks me that where do I see myself, I always say that I want to make impact. And like Manya said, that she sees herself making some sort of change. What do you guys mean when you say we want to make change? How do you define making impact or making change? Why do you guys even want to make that kind of change?
I think as much as the world increases its pace, it doesn't mean that it's racing towards a better place. You know, it might not be progressing in terms of what a wonderful place it is to live in at all. And when you live in a world like that, there's always a place to, in whatever capacity you have, make things better for yourself. It could be, or maybe it could be for yourself and your family. It could be for your community. It could be for society as a whole. So, whenever you start to question why things are done, and if you think long and hard, you come up with better answers to more, maybe more efficient ways that things could be done, maybe more sensitive ways that things could be done, things that are better from a humanitarian perspective, from an environmental perspective. And there will always be a space for that, no matter how much the world progresses. So that's why I think that when, uh, and Manya, please correct me if I'm wrong, but is that what you mean when you say, um,
Yeah, definitely. Because I think uh, we need to be, that's what I said, challenging my own beliefs. I mean, like questioning them and making sure that the times haven't left my belief behind. Like I need to be sure that not only is my belief relevant in my time, but it's going to be relevant in the future. That what I'm doing isn't harming anyone else right now. That what beliefs I hold aren't harming anyone, and I need to keep reevaluating them to make sure that any new knowledge I get, uh, is incorporated into my beliefs. Because, fourth grade me didn't even know about the queer community, right? I had no clue who they were. I just knew that, sometimes the word gay was thrown around like an insult.
Yeah.
That was the extent of my knowledge. I didn't even know what it meant, right? But then got introduced to that, and I said, hey, this is new information, and I think I need to reevaluate the fact that that's an insult based on this new information that I've gotten. So I think that's something that everyone needs to have the humility to do. There's no shame in admitting you're wrong. So I hope that 10 years from now, I'm not arrogant enough to think that my beliefs are always infallible and correct.
so I think information figures itself out. You can seek it, it can come to you. You can never know everything.
Yeah.
So no matter how much you seek, your belief will still be, no matter how much information you seek, your beliefs will be limited to what you know. Um, but I think that the most important thing is to start talking to your inner voice. And as loony as that sounds, as spiritual as it sounds, it's not. It's very simple, you see anything around you. You see a kid begging on a traffic signal, you think about what your inner voice is telling you. And then you start engaging with that voice. And that voice can either get louder or more quiet.
And
But
don't be
what you're
afraid
left
to
with
be
it,
affected. Don't be
but
afraid.
yeah, but what you're left with after you converse and engage with that inner voice is what I think your belief is.
And to close this and to summarize this, if you guys had to give one piece of advice to your peers what would that be? And I know it's a tough question, and it's really a one piece of advice would not suffice for the kids today because they're really dynamic. But still, if there's one piece of advice that you'd give to your peers, teenagers, what would that be?
Well, one piece of advice would be to stop thinking about yourself. I think teenagers in general, like I think myself included right now, like even possibly across the last 1 hour, I've probably thought about myself more than Manya or you know. So like when I cut off Manya twice today and cut off you once, I was thinking about myself, and it's advice that I should take as well, is to start thinking about other people. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all a little narcissistic and we're
Not
all
be full of
self-obsessed.
myself.
Yeah, don't take yourself too seriously, right? Go ahead, Manya.
Question everything. And that sounds exhausting. It's really not that exhausting. Just don't let it tear you apart, but definitely ask yourself, hey, I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? Or, hey, this is a policy which is being protested. Why are people protesting it? Or this news source is giving me piece of information A and this source is giving me piece of information B. Why are these two pieces of information conflicting? Ask yourself why all of a sudden is news media reporting on, say, celebrity issues. Ask yourself questions. And whether you choose to do something about it is a whole different matter. But question it. Ask yourself why. And you know, if you think you're going to be more comfortable not knowing the answer, sure, that's your opinion. But at least question it. Don't accept things just because that's the way they are. I think for too long we've accepted things for the way they are, and it's led to this, well, a bunch of not so great stuff.
Totally agreed. Yeah, we should question everything. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining in. It's been an absolute pleasure and delight to talk to both of you. And I genuinely wish you guys the very best. And I hope that you continue to make a lot of change in the world. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Srishti. It was lovely talking with you.
Thank you so much
Lovely
for
talking with you.
us.